So the first action item is to approve the order of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's passed. Next is the minutes of the October 16th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. Going on to Sunny with the staff report.
All right, so for staff updates and staff development activities, on November 16th, we ended up having our violent intruder training then. Just yesterday, they concluded the Reference Librarian 1 presentations. And then later this month, on the 30th, we're going to have a refresh of de-escalation training, how to give physical descriptions to 911 when we're on the phone with dispatch, and personal safety during an incident and the post-incident protocols. Thank you, Tim. Programming, upcoming events and programs. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. Children's, so the 21st of this month, we'll be having an elephant and piggy party. Kids are encouraged to dress up as elephant and piggy. If they don't have anything, we will have stuff and they can kind of makeshift something together. I saw some really neat piggy face masks earlier today.
When is that?
That is the 21st.
Tomorrow. What time?
I don't have
It's
that
on
information,
the-
but it's on the website. All this information.
Okay.
December 4th, we will be having Libraries Dance. This is a new partnership that we have with Gasper School of Dance and the FM Ballet. So they'll spend some time with the kids doing stretches and exercises, and then they're going to learn some basic techniques. For teens, December 1st, we are going to have a Harry Potter escape room, which if it's anything like our last escape room, it will be awesome. So we're very excited for that.
And that's just for teens.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rachel. You can't.
Not for the young at heart.
Yeah.
And then on the 11th and 13th, they're going to have like a polymer clay gingerbread man ornament craft. Adults, so we have a number of things coming up just this weekend and next week. We're going to have World War I on screen movie series. The first one is going to be All Quiet on the Western Front. Again, the other ones can be found on our website. On November 29th, we are going to have a book discussion featuring John Krakauer's, I'm never sure how to pronounce his name, book Missoula Rape and Justice System in a College Town. Cheryl Dunlap, who is the educator from the Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, she's going to be present to discuss sexual assault in the Fargo, Moorhead area. And then starting on December 3rd, we are going to start up or December 1st, we're going to start up our third annual edition of Northern Narratives. It's a local writing project. And we have several open writing sessions planned for this event. Again, that's on our website, and it is generously funded by the Friends. Notable past events and programs. So on the 20th of October, we had our National Fossil Day program. So we had members of the NDSU Herpetology Club bring in a bunch of lizards and snakes, and it was great. The kids loved it. So we had 126 people attend that. And on November 15th, Jen Pickett from the City of Fargo recycling program, she talked to kids about how our city is doing as far as recycling is going, and they had activities on that. They also participated in the Day Without a Bag campaign, which is more so focused on how can you yourself eliminate bags from your life. And then on November 17th and 18th, just right over the weekend, we had another edition of our Red River Modules Model Railroad Club. And so they set up their big trains. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, I strongly suggest you attend next year. It's really big and it's really cool. We had 305 people attend that over the weekend to learn about railroad safety and see some presentations. And then teens, so we had 2 successful homemade mint programs earlier in the month, and we had a pretty full Cooking Made Easy for Teens where they learned how to make healthy filling meals using their microwave or Instapot.
Sure.
And then for adults, on October 16th, we had Dr. John Cox from NDSU. He gave a talk on what's so great about the Great War at the main library. We had 70 people attend on October 25th. We finally had our One Book, One Community talk with author P.S. Duffy on her book, The Cartographer of No Man's Land. And we had 144 people attend that. Again, thank you, Bob and the friends, for helping out with that. And on November 4th, we started the Native American Festival and Education Kickoff. The library partnered with the following organizations: the Native American Commission, the Cultural Diversity Resources Program, and the Plains Art Museum, and the Daughters of the Earth on this project. And we had 130 people attend that kickoff event.
All righty. Yeah, you guys have been busy.
We've been very
You've been
busy.
Does anybody have questions, comments, concerns for Sunny?
What?
You
3-4 months?
Yeah, you need a good 3 to 4. In terms of PR, you need at least a minimum of 6 weeks of PR ahead of a program, at least. And if it's less than that, it's not the ideal. So that's the big thing they really concentrate.
Jan, you brought your microphone down. Was that just okay? Okay. All right.
I'll just keep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Sunny. Let's move on to the director's report.
Yes, per your packet, a lot of interviews as part of getting a new librarian one, opening due to retirement. Also, if you can see under infrastructure there on goal 5, looking at, we were able to identify money within the operating and now Northport has security cameras, both interior and exterior. We've improved interior, exterior also at Carlson and also at Maine. So now we have better coverage in terms of that. A newer platform to view the footage is much better than the old one, and worked with City IS with that, and certainly we've worked within our budget to certainly get that done for this year, and it's exciting. So that's one of the big things there, is to get that done prior to next year. If anyone has any other questions about what I have listed there.
Have you met with the city attorney regarding corporate sponsorship?
Right. And if, as part of our strategic plan, one of the items was for us to do some investigation in the possibilities of having corporate sponsorship opportunities for selected library programs. And obviously the first step with that is really looking at, on the city side, where's the city on a legal sense of where they feel comfortable. We were able, in that discussion with the city attorney, to identify an approach that he's comfortable with. What we're now is doing internally, kind of looking at putting together a draft policy proposal, certainly which will come to this board once we have that done. So we're just in the process of kind of identifying what kind of programs we're talking about. I see us starting smaller in terms of the total number of programs that could be part of this situation, but we're really trying to do homework in terms of to identify amounts and how we want to approach it. Certainly once we have that draft, that'll come to the board here, and we'll walk you through that process.
Okay. Does anybody have questions for Tim? No. Okay, let's move on to the statistical reports.
Right, you can see we have just under 39,000 current approximate registered patrons. In terms of visits, this past October was up 2% over October of 17, put us around 2% over last year in terms of total visits. Program attendance, per Sunny's discussion, you can see that was very, that was big. It was like a 23% over last October, which is exciting that Year-to-date, we're 2% over last year, and last year was essentially a record year in terms of program attendance, so we might have another record year in terms of that. Looking forward, volunteer hours, Pam's down a few folks. Currently, internet sign-up fluctuates, still fluctuating down a little bit. Internet sign-ups down a little bit over last year, and web page hits down around 29% over last year. In terms of circulation, what's exciting is how strong, certainly on the first page, how strong print has been over last year, 4%. So looking at year-to-date, we're almost 3% over last year, and if we keep trending the way we are, it's, again, in terms of overall circulation, that's going to be a record year as well. What has been interesting is, I would say over the last 4 months, I've been keeping monthly statistics, circulation by month for the last, since '09. And the last 4 months have been record for their months in this year. So usually it's kind of all over different years, different months, kind of, which were the total, but now we're, and I think what it is, it's the continual work, obviously, that Jason does with the selectors, and in terms of the growth in electronic and the strength of our print also. So there's kind of strengths all around the collection in terms of circulation. Obviously, some physical media continues to go down, obviously CDs, but some of them are kind of bouncing around a little bit. So overall, yeah, it's exciting to see the kind of use that we're getting.
All right. Well, great. That's usage. Should we move on to financials?
Sure. First one, of course, the donations we received, $1,000 from a Mr. Myron Sommerfeld from Valley City. It's very nice of him. On the expenditure side, you see $250, and that was One Book, One Community ads. Thank you, Bob. Also $272 for Crafternoons. Thank you again, Bob. And $175 for North Dakota collection books from a women's club donation. So you can kind of see kind of on the revenue and expenditure side. Point out that if you see kind of the money that's unrestricted and unspent, we're looking at just over 39,000. Maybe next month we can talk about if we want to put that in the endowment or keep it available. I just float that question out there, as obviously that's a board decision, so just something to think about.
Okay.
In terms of overall budget, with 83% of the year lapsed, we're under 83%, just a little over 2%, or 82%. Obviously, keeping an eye on where we are through the end of the year, and things look good in regards to that. And revenue is a little over 66,000.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tim on the financials? Seeing none, let's move on to Bob with the Friends of the Library report.
Thank you. Sonny and Tim mentioned some of the places where we've been helpful with our money. We did not meet in November. Somebody thoughtlessly scheduled an election on our meeting date, so we lived with it and didn't meet.
Get him on the phone.
Priorities, I guess. We continue to have book sales that each month are exceeding the previous year, and they're probably record amounts, but I'm not sure if there might be some exceptions there, but book sales are doing very well in the store and at the two other libraries. That's, a lot of that is due to the sparkling personalities of the volunteers who work there. Interesting group of people, and some of them have followers who come in and visit regularly, and some are a little bit more behind the scenes. But we annually reward our volunteers with a gift card. So this year each is receiving a $40 gift card in appreciation of their efforts. Our board is about to go through a bit of a transition. In 2 weeks, we'll have our annual meeting. We have 3 board positions to fill, 3 out of 9, which is significant. We also have officer positions to fill, including the president, secretary, maybe the vice president. We elected a new treasurer at our last meeting because one of the 3 vacancies is our treasurer, who left early because he likes warm weather, goes to Arizona. The meeting in 2 weeks will be I presume will be my last meeting. I'm tenured out after 6 years and about 5 years as president. I'll still be a volunteer, and I'll still be a friend of the library and hang out there. I just don't have as good an excuse anymore to hang out at the library. So we will, I'm assuming there are people who will take over these positions. It's not official until it happens, but I want to wish you well in your work. I always will love the library, whether as a friend or just as a friend. Capital letter or lowercase. So, and thank you for having me at your meetings. I don't know what the schedule of the new president will be as far as attending meetings. That'll have to be determined later, I guess. But I hope that the friends will still be welcome at your table. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, Bob, you're leaving big shoes to fill. We're gonna miss having you at our meetings. You could be the one audience member who comes and sit by Betsy if you really want to.
There is a gap on your schedule.
Yeah.
Agenda.
So, all right. Well, I guess we'll see next month who the new face is. But like I said, they have big shoes to fill, I think. So.
Size 12.
Yeah. Well, hey. Okay. So that's any questions for Bob?
Do you have applications for the 3 open positions? Have you received applications?
Informally, we do.
I was going to say, is there a process people go through? Do they apply online or just talk to someone? Or
Basically being recruited by
right.
current board members, and
That's what I figured.
we'll come to the meeting and we'll have this intense process of scrutinizing their entire life, and then
They get voluntold.
Right.
then we'll elect them before they can leave the room.
Good to know.
Sounds like you might be interested.
Well, I know someone who might, but I don't, I'm just wondering if all the positions are already kind of spoken for. I could ask someone else on the,
If you know somebody, you can let me know quickly,
okay,
because that's 2 weeks away.
okay.
And there's one that's sort of being kept open in case there's a last-minute
Got it.
person interested.
Okay. I appreciate that insight. I will keep that in mind.
Any other questions for Bob? All right. Then we will move on to an action item, old business, the meeting room policy.
Yeah, as we went through the policies and the board reviewed and took action on others, this is one that was kind of tabled, thinking that we'd have more of a discussion on library staff side, and we've had that to a certain degree. And I guess, the idea, having reviewed this and know the kind of staff time that's involved with managing the scheduling, set up this kind of situation, I really feel that as is, minus any kind of grammatical situations that you might identify, I think this really does us a great service as is. A perfect example is, how it says in here that these is a public library, the meeting rooms, no matter who has them, are open to everybody. Well, we had a situation, prior to the election, there was one group on one side of one idea and on the other side of the other idea, and one group was having their party and afraid that the other group would show up, and they put a nice sign up saying, invitation only, and so I had to literally go out, talk about other duties as assigned. I had to go in there and physically open the doors, take down the sign, have several discussions with all involved, and point out that this group here is in violation of the policy, and the doors are going to open, that sign's going to come down, well, obviously I'm going to take it, and the other group is like, you're going to behave yourself, and so to go into those conversations is essential to have a policy like this. So I would urge the board, based on our experience and all the work that Betsy does in terms of scheduling and setting up, and that I think we got the bases covered. And I know the initial idea is, what do we want to do in terms of the fees? I think with the work that's involved in managing this situation, I think the fees are where they should be. So.
Thoughts? Yeah.
Tim, I noticed that I love the fact that we have no fee for advanced booking for nonprofits, but it doesn't include it for Northport. Is that an oversight? Or did you not want to include Northport?
That might very well be an oversight. Oh, come up to it. Betsy's our scheduler.
So at Northport, there's not a conference room, there's only the large community rooms, and we don't offer any of the community rooms as a walk-in. So that's why there's only advanced bookings.
In other words,
For
at
the
Carlson,
for the largest
at
room.
Carlson and Maine, we have the smaller conference rooms available. At Northport, we just have that one big room.
But since you only have one room, couldn't you allow it
That's up
to be
to,
used?
That's just why it is now.
That's why, I didn't realize I should have realized that.
it's a
Difference between
size.
Conference room.
It's kind of
And
trying to
community.
keep it same Z's across.
May I suggest that in Northport, the conference room, you call it a conference room, the conference
The
room.
community room.
The community room is really a community room / conference room. So I guess I'd encourage us to allow, as you do the other conference room.
I don't have a strong, I think with the level of, would be fine with that. That wouldn't be an issue. As far, I think it was just trying to keep continuity, but I can
Yeah.
see your point, and I don't have a problem with the change.
With the size of Northport, just having
Yeah.
the one
No.
available room. I would like to suggest we add that, but I'll wait for further discussion before making the motion.
I think I'm having a hard time, and I think Mary's explaining it to Carrie right now. So can you explain where you're seeing, or?
So if you take a look at page 5 of 6 on our, on this particular item, meeting rooms, about a third of the way down, maybe halfway, under Carlson Conference Room fees, Carlson and the other libraries both have multiple rooms. There's a conference room, which we all know, the large facilities. Then they also have community rooms, which are the smaller, you can have a meeting of,
Well, the community rooms are the big ones.
I'm sorry.
The conference rooms.
yeah, I'm trying to define something I don't know. They have big rooms and small rooms, and I'm confusing the exact title of those rooms. But at Northport, as you know, it's a smaller facility to begin with, and there is, actually, it's been very recent, the last couple of years, that we have,
We've had that since 15, 14.
oh, yeah, once again reminding me, I'm aging here. It seems like a new
It seems like
room.
yesterday, but.
It seems like yesterday. Nonetheless, the other libraries have multiple rooms, Northport's have one.
And the
Other-
smaller ones are no fee for advanced booking for nonprofit
Right.
because they're smaller, where, because at Northport, it's the single room, which is larger, identified as a community room, that doesn't exist currently.
So that issue that's right in the middle of the page, advanced booking for nonprofits, is no fee at the other libraries. I would encourage us to allow that to happen at Northport.
Would we be removing the $50 for 4 hours for nonprofits then? Is that replacing that? Because that's for advanced bookings.
I would like to, yes, I would like to keep it the same as Carlson Conference Room. No fee for advanced booking for nonprofits.
That would be the change, because that would
Why don't you make that a proposal so we can do it while it's in our head?
I would like to make a motion to adopt the meeting room policy with the addition of, in the schedule for Northport community room use, I would add
Or
no.
remove the fee, the $50 fee for advanced booking for nonprofits. That's what you're removing. You're
So I would
removing-
like to add the no fee advanced booking for nonprofits, written exactly the way it is for the other conference room, and remove the item that Tim just mentioned, the $50.
Second.
That,
Do you want to remove then, if you look in the other community rooms, do you want to remove the $50 per 4-hour fee for nonprofits in the other?
No,
I do
because they
not.
have the option of
Just
the
this.
community, of the
Okay.
conference.
Yeah, okay.
rooms.
I'm tracking. Okay. So that was
It's a sense of making an exception for Northport, because there's just the one.
just the one room. Got it. Okay, so she made a motion.
Second.
We got a second. Discussion.
Is there such a thing as, nonprofit day of? I mean, it says advanced booking, but if you're a nonprofit and you just show up without an advanced booking, is there a category, is there a, fee for that, or is that just not something that happens? I don't want to make it complicated, it just seems
I
like.
think in practice, not the community room, but if there's a conference room that's open, now obviously they have to go and fill out the sheet, and that has to happen. But I think they can just walk into and that was a discussion of, the board had that discussion where in terms of the FERCO or Dawson, the smaller conference rooms, that's allowed. And also at the conference room down at Carlson.
I guess I like the consistency of maintaining what is used at other libraries.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I'm just seeing that there's not an option for not advanced booking for nonprofits, for like day of or something like that.
We could add that language, because that's in practice.
Do you,
What
if
we've
you
been
don't, if you don't book the conference room in advance and you show up, do you get charged? No.
It would, yeah.
So currently, we don't do walk-ins for the community rooms, except for now.
Are we talking conference?
Conference room.
We're talking
Yes.
conference rooms.
Yep.
The small,
There's no fee for a walk-in
Okay,
nonprofit.
for anyone for a walk-in.
okay, so, all right.
I don't see that.
So if
Would you
you're
like
nonprofit-
clarifying language?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it matters, but just to me, I'm thinking, okay, so advanced booking is free, but it doesn't say, like, if you just show up the day of, do you have to pay? And you make it sound like if you're a nonprofit, you don't have to pay no matter what.
Except for the community rooms.
Right. But for conference rooms, no fee, you could change no fee to just nonprofits, I guess.
Instead of advanced booking, you're saying just put no fee for nonprofit.
Yeah, if it doesn't matter when if it doesn't matter if you book in advance. This may just be making it really complicated, but I just had a question, What's that?
I understood it when I seconded it. I'm not sure I understand it now.
Jenny, raise your hand.
I feel like, again, the size of Northport is also reflects the number of staff people, and it seems as though perhaps Northport would be the one, I'm guessing, would be the one area where you probably like some advance notice. You'd probably, if you're going to have
I think
5 or 6.
I think now that we've done what we've done in terms of staffing up there, I think they're perfectly fine to
handle
to
anything.
handle it. You know, given what we've observed in terms of overall usage, it's not like this is such a, up there, it's such a burdensome issue. And it would be nice to loosen it up and get more usage up there, frankly. Where, you know, Northport and, Carlson and Maine are busy.
It actually doesn't say walk-in on any of them.
So maybe we get some language on that? We get folks walking in. We get that, that's almost like every day. And they make the assumption that it is free, obviously.
Right.
We're just gonna walk in and sit down. And if it's short of asking for technology, then it pretty much is.
Well, I mean, if it's free, I mean, you probably don't even need to write anything on here. I just felt like it was kind of, you know, logically, I was, like, that was missing to me. But if it's free anyway, then maybe it doesn't need to be changed. Right.
What do folks think?
Call the question.
Call it a question. Do the,
Needs no more discussion. We vote on
okay. Okay, so, well, that was the discussion. So then the question is, all in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That is passed. So now.
I have an item here, and it's exactly that little bit of wordsmithing. Third paragraph down, groups are not booked for meetings, where it says confirmation will be made in person by mail, email, or fax. Then it says groups will be notified if their application has been rejected either in person, by mail, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you put groups will be notified either in person, by phone, by mail, email, or fax, if their application has been rejected.
So just move the,
Participle.
if their application has been rejected to
The end of the
the end of the sentence. You got that, Betsy? You got it. Any other edits? Any other,
Move. That'd be rewritten.
seconded, discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's approved. What else do we got for the meeting room policy? Nothing? All right, then that is finalized. So, moving on to new business, we have another material challenge review. So we have Jason back again. We should almost get you a name tag.
Did we approve it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did vote? Because I know we approved the edit at the, I don't
did
think
both.
we did the,
No, you did vote.
I just got done
We did
saying
both.
aye for
Oh.
something, so I
Yeah,
hope I
I
remember
heard,
right.
I heard two ayes,
Yeah.
actually.
okay.
Two sets of.
We got a thumbs up from Betsy.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so we're on to the material challenge review.
I'm back. It's the first time I've ever had two at the same time. Normally it's,
We're back.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so kind of like last time, I'll just sort of walk through, I put in kind of the formal recommendation in here, and I'll just kind of walk through some bullet points, and if people have questions, certainly feel free to ask. I think this is much more worthy of discussion than the previous one, which there's just more to discuss, I think. It's certainly a controversial item. So just to kind of background information, this is the film's called The Ungovernable Force, and it's an independent film from 2017. It's an homage to exploitation films, so it's very meant to be shocking and gross and these types of things. It has graphic depictions of sex and violence and things of that nature. It's also unrated because it's an independent film, and so I think that was a little bit of a controversy in the challenge as well. So to kind of address what I felt were the two main points of the challenge were the first one being the graphic sexual content in the film, and that children could have access to this and things of that nature. So sort of the really blunt response to that first is just that removing something due to sexual content is censorship. That's a very kind of what I believe to be a clear-cut case, and but we want to kind of go beyond that too, and especially when it comes to children, as seems to come up every time in these meetings, is the access to materials policy, and that specifically states that we do not restrict access to materials because they might be harmful to minors. We don't act as the parents or the guardians of the children. We leave that to the parents to do that. And because this is even a DVD, we do offer a special card to guardians that are no DVD cards for children if they don't want children checking out DVDs.
And that happens at the point of registration. And that the parent has the option to say, as the parent, I don't want my children checking out DVDs. And they can mark the box, and it goes into the child's record, and that's what happens. So there is a mechanism there. Again, the onus as an organization serving the public, the key to it is that the onus is on the parent, and the parent making the decision for the child, not in lieu of the parent that we're trying to do the math on how one person's worldview is this worldview or what have you. It's the onus is on the parents.
And so I think we certainly feel that we have gone above and beyond in that sense in terms of making sure that children who, if parents don't want children to have those materials, that they won't have them. Another thing is related to not having a rating, and I think that's actually a really interesting discussion point, because there's some thought like, well, this isn't rated. How are we supposed to know? Like, how are we supposed to make that decision, for children or something like that? I said it here is that ratings are actually fairly uncommon in the library as a whole. Books typically don't have ratings. Music CDs will have a parental advisory on some of them, but typically this evaluation isn't an uncommon thing in the library world. And even the American Library Association has some very strong stances on ratings, and actually is very much against ratings, because again, for films, ratings are done by a private organization. It's not. The argument is there could be agendas there, or things like that don't need to be in play. And furthermore, the film itself, and I should maybe start bringing the actual items here, but the artwork of the film, if you haven't seen it on the cover, I think is very clear to what type of film it is, and the text on the back is very clear that this is a film that has graphic sex and violence in it. So I don't think that the film, I think, is easy to review based on the art of it itself. And so to add any sort of further labeling or saying, okay, well, we want to be extra careful to, that would be prejudicial, I think, to that item, and would just be a slippery slope. And so really, I think the argument kind of comes down to, should we have this film in our library? Like, how did we acquire it? Why did we acquire it? Is it appropriate to have as a work? And the big thing was that this film was acquired based on a patron-initiated purchase suggestion. And so all of our patrons through our OPAC can offer purchase suggestions for materials. And there is a line in our collection development policy about purchase suggestions that are basically like, these are very important to us, and we take these into consideration as long as they meet some points in our selection criteria. And I think that this fits under public demand and interest just based on it being a purchase suggestion, and it's circulated well in the year or so that we've had it. It's also big for both effective expression and contribution to the diversity of our collection. I think there's certainly been a push in the library world to kind of, obviously we rely so much on reviews and professional review sources, but there is also a level of institutionalized bias potentially in that too, and it's important to get things outside of that sort of spectrum as well, even if they are shocking at times. And so I think it really does contribute to having a wide range of materials in our collection, getting smaller independent films and things like that. Furthermore, we see it at other libraries as well. We wouldn't expect it, because it is a small film, like some of our other challenges, we say, what's that, 500 other libraries? And I don't, this one says WorldCat Libraries, 13 other libraries have it, but we see it at big places like St. Paul Public Library, Rapid City Public Library, Cleveland and Multnomah County, which is Portland, Oregon library system. So, and some of those have multiple copies too. So I don't think that it's certainly not something that's like Fargo Library is the one library that has this weird film that somebody made. So I think it does fit well within, the purchasing of it. We also purchased it from our library media vendor. They specifically sell to libraries, and they offered it, which I think also says something about the film itself too. So kind of, that was maybe a lot, but to sort of summarize that, I feel that the content of the film, any sort of argument over that is a case of censorship, and how we acquired it and maintain it falls within our collection development policy. So collection development team, I think we all agreed that despite the controversial nature of the film, that it's something that we would retain in the collection.
This discussion on this topic.
I have a question, I guess. I mean, I really appreciate the depth of the discussion and all the reasons that you recommend keeping it. Makes a lot of sense to me. And I, of course, have not seen this film, and I completely agree that everybody's standards are different in terms of what's shocking. But is there a point where, is there a point where it does cross the line? I mean, you say, because, any challenge to sexual content is censorship, but that's a very broad statement that seems to include things like pornography. I mean, would we have that at the library? Is there a policy that says that sort of thing can't be circulated, or is that too, just so broad that we can include that sort of thing as well?
I think the struggle is also, again, how that's defined, and obviously that's something that's been bounced up to the Supreme Court, and it's like, I don't know a duck, but I know what a duck looks like, this kind of thing. I think where, again, it's kind of getting to what Jason's talking about in terms of when we look at, okay, it is at other libraries, so it exists within the library frame. I think it's also to kind of say what's diversity and what is pornography. Certainly, I would say those are valid and difficult questions. I think certainly I wouldn't think that we're out to find every shocking, strange film that we can possibly buy and put it in there. But, again, it exists in other libraries. It was a patron request. Is it, having watched the film, unfortunately, it is what it is. Certainly it is an homage to exploitation film. But yeah, to answer, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's a difficult to understand.
It's a balancing test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add too, I think that's a great question, and it certainly comes up whenever we talk about things like this. It's like, well, then what
Where's
is
the
something,
line?
what is something we remove? And that, as Tim said, defining any sort of, level of graphic content is certainly difficult. I think the things that I always kind of come back to are, is there something illegal about what is happening? Like, is there something like call to action, hate speech, or something?
But pornography is not illegal. I mean,
Exactly,
unless
right.
it's child pornography.
Right,
So,
and that, yeah, exactly. And I think that's where that definition then is sort of challenging, right?
Yeah.
And I think, there's sort of that black and white, and then there's that area of, is there something, a line to be defined of legal things to have, and that's challenging.
This is also approaching the slippery slope idea.
Oh,
The
yeah.
slippery slope is a rhetorical fallacy, right? We shouldn't be making arguments speaking about slippery slope. And this is coming dangerously close to that.
Well, and I'm not making any argument. I'm just
Oh, I didn't
asking
mean to
a question.
imply you were. I'm
you
trying
know,
to
I
think,
mean-
yeah, as soon as we start talking about where do we draw the line,
Sure.
this, that, we
I'm just,
Some lines through.
I would say, again, having watched it, is that the focus of it, in my mind, is more farce.
sure.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
and now, some of the things discussed were just there to shock, but the overall, if there is any kind of theme to it, is just how farcical,
Right.
these cartoonish kind of
Right.
situations and,
Well, I think you answered my question. I mean, there is, to say you can't censor, there will be no.
the challenge
censorship.
remains, simply.
yeah.
And it's good to acknowledge that challenge exists.
Yeah.
And for us to say that it doesn't exist, yeah, that always,
Well, and you're not saying that there is no line that you won't draw in terms of graphic sexual content, but that it's, it's a case by case. And I totally appreciate the sort of evidence you have to say in this situation is the right choice. So I appreciate that. I just had a question. I mean, I just wanted to see kind of what the thought process is there. Because I think there's also a difference between a video and a book, for instance. I mean, reading something is one thing, but watching something is another, in my opinion.
Do you guys have a distinction for that? Like reading versus watching?
In terms of how we would deal with the material challenge, I mean, not really, no. Certainly, they are different experiences. We also have books with graphic visual content in them as well. So, yeah, but there's certainly nothing explicit about, it is very much a case by case when we're looking at the items and how they fit in our collection.
Did you guys have a team? You said you have a team. You guys vote, or how does this?
Yeah, so the collection development team deals with collection development issues throughout the year, or not issues, initiatives and things like that. And this is also one of the tasks when these come up. So yeah, we typically review the item. I like to make sure everyone has a good few weeks at least to, if they want to have the item or look at it and do research and things. And we invite the person who wrote the statement of concern as well. They did not attend this meeting. And then we do have a discussion, and then ultimately we do votes. I can't say that after the discussion, most people are usually in agreement of the decision. There hasn't been too much controversy. I would say even when the people who have written the statement of concern, they typically maybe they still disagree, but they kind of understand as well. That's been my experience.
Have you guys ever found merit in a challenge yet?
No, not since I've been here. I think the one thing we did do is, and this is more funny than anything else, we had a book in geography, and it was actually the onions, which is it's a farce. It's farce, and it was Our Dumb World, and we had that in geography. And the woman's like, I don't have anything against the book. I think it's great. It's funny, but you should put it in, comedy. Yeah, we should, You read like two of the articles, you're laughing, and it's just like, well, no, this doesn't happen in Peru or anything.
You said
So-
that the circulation of this is steady?
Yep. Yeah, so this was, yeah, it circulated 36 times, and I think about a year. That was when I checked it a month ago.
Not the same guy, right?
I wouldn't know. Yeah, but I mean, one item circulating 36 times is certainly above average. So
One of the concerns here was about children being able to take it out. You said in the musical world, you have parental advisory on some of the musical items.
That's not what we put on. That's
Oh.
what the
Right.
industry puts on.
Got it. That answers my question.
Yeah, that's industry level that puts that on.
Okay, folks, this is an action item.
I'm prepared to make a motion, but first I have to say, Jason, once again, thank you, and thank you, your committee, for reviewing the request. I think you followed the procedure and the practices that we have in place, and I want to say thank you to each and every one of you on your team. And with that, I'd like to recommend that we retain the ungovernable force.
We move to retain or just move to take no action?
I think
It's the same.
but we need a second.
What you want to do, though, is that he's bringing forth a formal recommendation from the collection development team, which says retention, the retaining the item in the collection, And so in terms of that, you'd want to, the motion would be to retain it. In other
Yeah.
words, accepting the recommendation.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so second.
Discussion, which we've had. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. Okay, thanks, Jason. Public comment, there's no public to make a comment. So our next regular meeting is December 18th, and we are adjourned.